Ah, the science fair project. For some, those words spark excitement. For others, maybe a little bit of dread. But what if we looked at it differently? What if it wasn't a chore, but an adventure? Let's dive into this guide and turn that challenge into an absolute triumph.
Look, it's totally normal to feel a bit lost at the beginning. A big project like this can seem daunting. But don't you worry, because every great explorer needs a map. And for this journey, you've got one too. And this is your map. The scientific method isn't some rigid, boring formula you have to memorize. Think of it as a powerful tool, a guide that helps you ask smart questions, test your ideas, and find real answers. It's the exact same process professional scientists use every single day.
So, here's our game plan, our itinerary for this explainer. First, we'll frame this as a quest. Then, we'll figure out how to find your big idea. After that, we dive into the heart of the experiment itself. Then, we'll cover how to tell your project's story. And finally, we'll get a little peek behind the curtain at what the judges are really looking for.
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, your science fair quest. It's time to begin the adventure by really understanding the path ahead of us.
You know, every great quest, every adventure needs a solid plan. And this is yours. This structured approach breaks the whole huge process down into smaller, manageable chunks. That way, you can build your project piece by piece without ever feeling lost.
And here are the steps on our map. It all starts with the purpose. That's your big question, what you want to find out. Then comes the hypothesis, your best educated guess at the answer. The experiment is where you actually test it all out. Analysis is where you dig into your results to find the story. The conclusion is your big aha moment, your discovery. And finally, communication is how you share your awesome story with the world. Okay, let's move on to Section 2, finding your big idea. This is where that little spark of curiosity you have turns into a real, solid plan of action.
This is where the magic really starts. Seriously, begin by just brainstorming stuff you're actually interested in, stuff you love. Then you got to turn that topic into a specific, and this is key, a testable question. For instance, asking which paper towel brand is best isn't really testable. But asking which paper towel brand is the most absorbent, now that is something you can test. From there, you do a little research and make your educated guess, your hypothesis.
Now listen up, because this is probably the most important thing to remember. A lot of people think their project is a failure if their hypothesis turns out to be wrong. That is absolutely not true. Science isn't about being right, it's about finding things out. A fantastic project can totally prove your hypothesis was wrong, and guess what? That's still fantastic science.
So, how do you make sure your test is fair? Well, you use a control group and an experimental group. The control group is your baseline. You don't change anything about it. The experimental group is exactly the same except for one single thing you're testing. That one thing is called the variable. That way, any difference you see between the two groups has to be because of that one variable you changed. Simple, right? Okay, on to Section 3, the heart of the experiment. This is where all that planning pays off and the real action begins. It's time to collect some data. But wait, before we do anything, we have to talk about the #1 rule of any quest: safety first. This is non-negotiable. Always, always have an adult supervising. Wear safety goggles if you need them. Never, ever smell or taste chemicals. And be smart about electricity. Seriously, safety is job one. So as you're doing your experiment, you're basically collecting treasure. And that treasure is called data. It comes in two main types. You've got quantitative data. That's anything you can count or measure, numbers, like a plant's height in centimeters. Then you have qualitative data. That's stuff you describe with words, like noticing the plant's leaves turn to pale yellow. Both are super valuable. So you've collected all this treasure, all this data. Now what? You've got to make sense of it. And the best way to do that is to visualize it. Just look at a simple bar chart like this one. It makes it so easy to see the difference between your groups. You can tell instantly that the plant in full light grew way taller than the one that was deprived of light. No calculators needed.
And that's really what this is all about. You're not just crunching numbers, you're being a detective. Your data, your charts, your observations, they're all clues. So you have to ask yourself, what story are they telling me?
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, telling your project's story. Because a brilliant discovery isn't really complete until you can share it with other people. Your display board is basically the cover of your storybook. The classic layout is a great way to go. On the left panel, you put your purpose and hypothesis.
Right there in the center, you put your title and your most important charts and graphs. And on the right panel, you wrap it all up with your data summary and conclusion. It's clean, it's clear, and it just works. And here is a pro tip straight from the guide. Every single picture or chart on your board needs to have a job. It's not about just making it look pretty with glitter and stickers, it's about using visuals to make your scientific story clearer and easier to understand. A simple, hand-drawn diagram of your experiment is 1,000 times better than a generic photo of a scientist.
All right, the final challenge, the interview with the judges. But don't you worry, you've totally got this. Just prepare a quick summary of your project, your quest. It's okay to have a note card, but don't just read from it. Practice explaining it to your family. The judges really just want to hear what you did, and more importantly, what you learned along the way.
And for our last section, let's pull back the curtain. What do judges really want to see? Understanding this can help you focus on what truly matters.
Okay, check this out. Scientific thought and creativity are tied for first place, each worth 30%. That is huge. That tells you that a creative, well-thought-out process is just as important to the judges as getting a specific result. They want to see how your brain worked through the problem.
And at the end of the day, this is the absolute truth. The real prize isn't a blue ribbon. It's the confidence you build, the critical thinking skills you develop, and the amazing feeling of exploring something that you are genuinely curious about. It's about the experience, and it's about having fun with science.
So, there you have it. You have the map, you have the itinerary, you know the challenges, and you know the rewards. Your quest is officially waiting for you. The only question left is, what will you discover?